to another episode of the Tax-Free Crypto Podcast. It's always a delight to have you join us, and it's been great to see kind of our numbers go up and the listeners and the viewers and wherever you happen to catch us at. So thank you so much for being along the journey with us. So a couple things. Obviously, there's a guest I have in here today. We'll get to him in just a second, but I want to say this. If you are an affiliate marketer, if it's part of your business plan, if it's part of how you like to make extra money, I'm looking for more affiliates. Email me, eric@taxfreecrypto.com, ERIC@taxfreecrypto.com. I want to talk to you, and we'll discuss how the affiliate marketing works. If you want to make a few extra bucks, let me know. Help us both get the word out about tax-free crypto and who we are. Also, if you are on Twitter or X, the company formerly known as Twitter, follow me there. My tag or my name on there is the TFC guy, and my handle is the tax-free_crypto, tax-free_crypto. So follow me there and be a part of that. So I'm excited actually about a couple of things that are in the news. FTX, if you remember that, Sam Bankman-Fried, that swindler he was that took a bunch of money and just had a big party in the Bahamas. That guy. Well, obviously he went to jail. Yay. But also what's pretty cool is FTX now, the current people who are managing it, it looks like people are going to be able to get their funds back or a portion of them. Turns out there's about $7 billion that FTX has now to be able to pay back. Unfortunately, they owe about $16 billion, so they don't have quite enough to do that. But the catch or the caveat for them paying people back is a little over $3 billion of that $7 billion that they have is in digital assets, which means they need to sell it off. Well, if you sell off $3 billion of crypto, well, you know what happens to the market. It goes down. But the good news about that is that there's another dip for you to buy. So this is just another tip for you. Watch out for that if that's the route that they end up going. But keep FTX, Google it, search it, and you can get more information. And I can also give you more information as well. As the podcasts continue up, I'll keep you updated on that as well. If you are going to do that, obviously my suggestion to you would be to do it in a tax-free strategy, because when the dip goes to where it goes and you have that crypto asset in your Roth IRA, when the gains grow, obviously you have zero taxes to pay. Okay, that's just sort of a headline I wanted to throw out. I'm in the studio today with my friend Doug Plowman. He and I are part of the same mastermind. I always enjoy being around him. And so anyways, I know I was just talking about FTX and stuff like that. What has your crypto journey been like, Doug?
Yeah, so I haven't gotten too invested into crypto. Always kind of had some reservations about doing it. Mostly that I didn't know too much about it. Through watching your podcast, it's really helped me to better understand how I may be able to get involved. And one thing, I watched the episode that you had with Eddie Wilson, which was eye-opening for me, because I think for a lot of people it's like, how do I just jump off the cliff and kind of get started with it. And one of the things that he was mentioning is, oftentimes when you're investing out of these IRA accounts, it may not be a round number, and you may have, a little bit of change left over after an investment. And I can relate to that because I recently made an investment. And I do have a couple $1,000s sitting there that I, could do something with. And I think, crypto being a very good avenue to be able to put that into and have my money work and be a little bit liquid in case, I do want to move it over into something else. I have the ability to do that. Yeah. So that was a really good strategy, I think, for just, kind of being able to get started, and having your money work for you in a way that, will make you a little bit more comfortable with it. And then I think, once you start, then it makes it easier to learn more and become interested.
I love that play on it. I also am in, different investments as well, because I don't believe in having your investments look like a either or, like either invest like this or like this. I believe in a both and concept. Like I'm gonna also do that while I do that. I know that I am part of the crypto world pretty heavily, but that's not the majority of my investments. The majority of my investments are in private equity. Yeah, because that's where the one percenters, if you will, made their money in private equity. So, but a portion of my funds are into cryptocurrency through a tax-free vehicle, through a Roth IRA. But here's what's cool about it. It kind of triggered my mind to say this, because I have a self-directed IRA with the custodian that allows me to direct the money wherever I want it to go. You understand the concept because you're playing the same game. what was cool is I recently bought Bitcoin actually back in January.
Okay.
Well, it was like 17, 18, $19,000, something like that for the Bitcoin. And I only had put like $5,000 into it because this is what's cool about cryptocurrency
Mm-hmm.
is that unlike a stock, if Apple, which by the way dropped today because they just released their new iPhone, which was exactly the same as the last iPhone. But no, I think it's more complicated why that dropped. But still, if Apple last I checked was about $185 or whatever it was, in order to own Apple stock, you have to buy $185.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Whereas with crypto, let's say you only had $185, well, you could put $185 into Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Right. You get to still own portions of it regardless. Yeah. So I put 5K into Bitcoin when it was $19,000, and then it jumped up. Like we saw it go up into the 30s, right?
Yeah.
So I made a couple $1,000s. I ended up selling off the $2,000. I kept the 5K as sort of the base that was in there. That was my $0 in that portion of the account. I took the couple $1,000s I made, transferred it into my other Roth IRA, and then I took that and I bought tax liens with it.
Mm.
So I'm kind of using my crypto account as when the market's positive as a cash cow that funds so I can do these other deals. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not putting all of my money into crypto, but I'm putting a healthy portion of it in there.
Mm-hmm. That's very cool. Yeah, I think what's interesting about it is what I've often thought, and what I think I'm going to do in order to get involved is, set some money aside out of each paycheck, to move into the account and just use that to invest in crypto and have that, sort of as a money market account, if you will, to be able to then invest in other opportunities following that. And in the meantime, your money is working for you. You're making, better returns than you would if you just put it into a mutual fund or something like that. So that's a very interesting take.
Yeah, I just think that people, you don't know what you don't know, and then you don't know how to do what you do know.
Yeah.
Which is why I love being part of masterminds, because there's a confidence you're living life with people in the same life journey, if you will. So speaking of that, tell us about yourself. What's your expertise? What are you into? What can you help our audience with?
Yeah. So for myself, professionally, I work as a consultant in business process and data analytics. I spent the last 6 to 7 years of my life working within Fortune 500 companies, helping them out to systematize their processes, whether it be new process design and implementation, or taking existing business processes and figuring out, how can we optimize these? How can we scale these across, different regions of North America or globally for certain companies that I've worked with. And so, that's the bulk of my expertise. I think that, spending time doing that has been really fulfilling for me. I've always worked kind of in the traditional corporate environment. In being involved in a lot of these masterminds, it's really helped me to branch out and start to see the opportunities, in taking my talents more in an entrepreneurial direction. And so through that, I've become involved in a consulting startup, as well as opened my own freelance consulting business. And so I'm just kind of getting those off the ground now and starting to, kind of dabble in that. And I think that, similar to the journey that I've been through with cryptocurrency, I think that there's a lot of like fear in the unknown, and sometimes like it takes surrounding yourself with people who have the experience and have done the things to give you the confidence to say, okay, if I just got a little bit of skin in the game and just got started, it may not be perfect right off the bat, right? But, going through those little iterations and sort of like, minor like setbacks and failures, you really learn a lot from that. And really, if you never get started, you're never going to get there, And so being around a lot of, high net worth people and people who are very successful in different aspects of business and investing and stuff like that has really changed the course of my life and my professional career, because it's opened a lot of doors and possibilities that I just was never exposed to before. I think it really comes down to exposure. I'm a big proponent of exposure. I think whether it's been in my professional career, or just with like friends and people that I've mentored, I've always been big in like, how do we get out in front of like what's out there in the world? Right. How do we expose ourselves to, the different possibilities? Because you don't know what you don't know. And if you just kind of sit within this hamster wheel that you live in, each and every day, we kind of get caught up in that, and you can find yourself in the same place for the next 5 to 10 years,
Right.
and really like never really see the possibilities that are out there. So,
Well, it's so unfortunate how much money is on the table of either doing good with it, being a blessing to your family with it, but just because you don't know how to take that first step. So in your consulting business, are you helping startups mainly? Are you helping people who hit a ceiling and and you help them change their mindset? Like where in the consulting game is your favorite, and what is your encouragement to those in those stages of business?
Yeah, so personally within the freelance consulting business that I'm starting, I'm in the very early stages of that. But when I was working, kind of as an internal consultant for Fortune 500 companies, I found that like I'd work on these projects, right? And, I may save $1 million, $2 million on a particular project, very, very good, like, bottom line savings and stuff like that. But I found that the projects that I was doing, working with smaller departments and actually, taking something that may have took them, 10 hours, a week to do, and then automating it and seeing them be able to do it at the click of a button or something like that, and seeing how I could really change their day to day and make an impact on them was much more fulfilling for me. So I found that like being able to work kind of on a smaller scale was something that fulfilled me a lot more. And then through kind of getting exposure to some of the different groups and masterminds and seeing the work that they do with smaller businesses and startups, maybe the ones that are around that, $5 to $10 million range, and just looking to maybe take it to, 20 million or 30 million, I think that the impact and the fulfillment that I could get in working with those different groups was far greater for me, and far more fulfilling, and could be potentially more lucrative for me as well. So that's kind of what pushed me in that direction. And I think my goal as I begin to start my business now, I'm originally from Key West, and I have a very solid community of people down there, and I really want to be able to kind of go back a lot of the different tech systems and processes and systems that a lot of people have in place down there are very antiquated.
Yeah.
And so I see that not only as a big opportunity for me from a business standpoint, but also a good way to be able to give back to the community that I grew up in as well. Awesome. So I really think that that's kind of where I'm going to begin, sort of my entrepreneurial journey, and, kind of see where that takes me from there.
Very cool. So if anybody who's actually listening that could be of, consultancy would be useful to them, what are you looking at a certain net worth of a company, or you're just like, hey, whatever stage you're at, I think I can help you? Like what would be your niche?
I would say, more smaller companies. I'd say if you're, in the ballpark of, like $5 million in revenue or less, those are probably the ones that I'd like to start out with.
Right.
I think, my bread and butter is, doing an operational assessment. Let's figure out like what your core businesses are,
right,
and what systems you have in place, right? And then taking that and saying, let's map out what these key systems are that you have in place, and make sure that your business, if you're looking to either become more efficient or scale, kind of has the backbone to be able to do that. So are these systems documented? If not, let's get them documented. Do you have, ways to formalize your training methods for your employees and different things like that? Like, is the infrastructure in place to be able to scale, right? Because I think like if you're not ready to scale and you try and scale, you can bury your business like right then
and yourself.
There, exactly.
And you'll burn out. Like we were just part of, we had one of our masterminds were a part of, had that big meeting. Obviously, you and I were both there.
Yeah.
And that's what one of the speakers was talking about, was scalability and all that. You might have a vision and a fantasy that's driving the desire, but you're right. If you're not ready for that scale, how are you going to do more customer retention? How are you going to, you name the XYZ. And I think people get lost in the, what I always tell my kids is the I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna, right? It's like, okay, a vision is not a sentence out loud.
Yeah.
Right. Or fulfilling your dream is not just saying a sentence out loud. It is the principle of sitting down. What does it take? Because it's got to be past fantasy. So that's a great thought.
Yeah. And, there's a lot of entrepreneurs and CEOs out there that I think, are so focused on their business, and they're trying to do everything that they can and hold control of this and that.
Mm-hmm.
And they spend so much time working in the business and not enough time working on the business,
That's good.
And so I think like helping people, like enabling people to understand, like, how could I, in a sense, like document the things that I know so that I can clone myself in a sense, and hire some talented people underneath me to be able to take care of these operations. And when is the right time to do that?
Right.
And so that I can start to remove myself a little bit and see the bigger picture to help things grow.
I read an article not too long ago about this with the boomers who are still trying to maintain control, and the Gen Xers have less of an issue letting go, and the millennials, which is somewhat my age. I'm an old millennial. Depending on what,
I don't think you're old.
depending on what scale or what you read, or which chart you read. I was born in 1980, and so some charts say 80 to 95. Some charts say 84 to 96. So I don't know. But there's another article I wrote that said I'm a Zennial. So a Zennial is somebody from 76 to 82 or something like that, because we saw the world go from analog to digital. Like, we have this flexibility, regardless of whatever it is. Boomers are having a hard time letting go, because what they did was they were good owner operators.
Yeah.
Meaning they had to do the operation, the work. They had to do the physical. I had to roof it myself.
Yeah.
Instead of cloning crews or cloning a manager, right? Anyways, what you just said triggered my mind to that. So at what point do I know how to train? What traits am I looking at? What are my personal idiosyncrasies or nuances? Because how we get very particular how something's to be done. Yeah. Then that new guy, that new gal comes in. It's like, whoa, you're not doing it the way right? Would you say that's more of the mindset that you're working with?
Yeah, I would say that's mostly the mindset that you tend to see. I think that it can be difficult, especially if something's like your baby, to kind of relinquish a little bit of that control.
Yeah.
But I can say, like, having the experience of working with Fortune 500 enterprises, like, I mean, they've become very good at cloning and copy and pasting and developing departments. And I've spent a lot of time figuring out what is the best way to allocate resources. How can we structure this particular department, based on the data that we've collected, to better deliver value. And I think that I've had a lot of time spent in doing that sort of thing. And working on a much smaller scale, you can really start to see and pick apart, like, here are the areas in which, like, you're good, like, here's are the types of things that you love to do and that you want to do, and how can we bring in some other pieces around you, at the right times, to be able to help you meet your goals and to help you move in the direction that you'd like to go.
Yeah, I like that. Speaking of that same mastermind we were at, where we talked, one of the speakers was talking about scalability, viability, and all that. But another gentleman was talking about, relationships. One of the masterminds that Doug and I are part of, that has 4 pillars to it, right? You have the pillar of purpose, the pillar of professionalism, the pillar of personal, and the pillar of the physical. And we focused the last couple of days on the personal. And it was so good about the relationships and things like that. One thing that I'm sort of working out is, relationships are the mirrors through which we see ourselves, but they're the vessels through which we show the change we're making, right? Yeah. And I thought that was quite interesting. And before we started filming, you were kind of sharing some thoughts and ideas even about the relationship aspects, if you'd like to share that here today too.
Yeah, I think, for me, something over the course of the last 8 months that I've really, gotten very firm with is, like, my relationship with myself. And so at the end of last year, I was coming out of a long-term relationship that I was in for 10 years. And, for me, I think losing that relationship was something that was one of my biggest fears in life, And so when it actually did happen, at first it was something that really, like, knocked me down, and something I was like, how am I ever going to get through this? But I said, let me take some time to reinvest back into myself and really figure out who I am and what types of things I want for myself. And I think that was, like, one of the best things that could have ever happened to me in retrospect, because when you begin to, kind of take a step back and understand, like, how can I, sort of get my mental right and start to get myself in a place where, I feel very comfortable and fulfilled in what it is that I'm doing and in myself, then that really bleeds over into other aspects of your life. Like, I think that your foundation, is, your personal life and your relationships and the things that you have. And when you can sort of get those things together, everything else kind of starts to fall into place. So for me, kind of coming out of that difficult situation, like, one of the things that I said is, like, I'm going to really focus on my physical, get back into the gym, really start to work out. And I think, for anybody that's going through tough times, like, I would definitely recommend, kind of working towards getting fit is one of those things. And for a couple of reasons, I think that when you work towards getting fit, you're going to the gym, you start to see results. What it does is, like, it's visible to you. And you can look in the mirror and you can see, like, wow, like, I'm starting to look good. I'm starting to feel good. Confident. And it makes you more confident, builds your confidence in yourself, which starts to trickle into other aspects of your life. But what's different about, like, the gym and your physical, as opposed to other things, maybe like, getting more money or, investing in, like, your knowledge and your skill sets and stuff like that, is also that other people begin to see changes as well. And when you can kind of attack that from both angles, you start to feel better about yourself. You start to look good and feel good. But then other people are like, hey man, like, you've been going to the gym, like, you look good. Like, and now, like, that's just it's something that just, like, really starts to build you up and fill you in a way that, like, you don't really get from a lot of other areas. So, I think that was one thing that really helped, to propel me, personally, and then really started to move me to seek out, other different types of ways that I could expand my circle of influence, start getting in the room with people who are doing the types of things that I wanted to do, kind of break out of my shell and my comfort zone, become, more entrepreneurial, start looking into different types of investment opportunities. And so that was sort of, one of the tips of the iceberg for me, and really starting to get back on track. And, the things that have happened to me over the course of the last 8 months, just by, really, like, investing in myself and taking myself out of my comfort zone, have been, phenomenal. So.
Yeah. One thing that I'm enjoying about the personal growth thing, obviously it brings a self-awareness. What I don't want to have, Doug, is I don't want to have this bubble, right? You called it the hamster wheel.
Yes.
Where I'm in a bubble where people don't speak into my life because they're afraid, if I'm an authority over them, that I can take something away from them because they said something that might have been harsh, but I needed to hear. So I'm opening up my heart and my transformative nature to be like, look, I'm strongly opinionated. I can dominate conversations. I have ideas, but I want to open my whatever bubble that I may be in that I don't even know I'm in. I want people to be able to burst it. It's that whole, I was just talking about this with my kid. I have 4 daughters because God hates me, and wanted to make sure I went through that. I was a bad teenager. Anyway, so we were talking about the fable, the Emperor's New Clothes. Have you heard of that fable?
I don't know that.
Okay, so it's the idea that the emperor had these brand new clothes, and he was told that only the wisest, smartest people can see them, because essentially they were invisible. So the emperor was walking around butt naked, and everywhere he went, because they were told, they told the people, hey, only the wisest people can see the emperor's clothes. They would applaud him. Oh, look at his clothes, look at his clothes, and all that. And there was just that one kid sort of at the end, why is the emperor butt naked? Right? Just willing to tell the truth. Because, the fear that you could put into people in leadership in your family and wherever, I want that little kid in my life to say, dude, you're butt naked, dude. So that's where I'm at, because I'm learning personal growth is not just a choice, it's a commitment.
100%.
Commitment you make to yourself, to others in your sphere, but also to the world at large. Like, that's important. And part of that personal thing is to expand your knowledge and understanding of money movement that's one thing I've loved about the masterminds we're a part of is I love moving money, man.
Yeah.
Like look, man, I love Dave Ramsey. I really, really do.
Mm-hmm.
I've been debt free in my life for the last 15 years because of that man. My wife and I followed his principles hardcore. But the thing about Dave is he doesn't teach really investments because that's not his niche. His niche is the bulk of blue collar workers that don't know how to manage money, right? They're constantly in debt for things that they don't need to be in debt for, small stuff, right? So he teaches the necessary habits of controlling your money. But now that I'm in this money movement, I'm just as addicted to that as I was when we initially paid off our debt. So I own, my rental homes, I own my personal home, I own these things, but I'm leveraging that stuff now to move my money for private debt, for cryptocurrency because of what's happening. I mean, goodness, in the news, you have the Bitcoin spot ETF awaiting approval. Kathy Wood, she's the the CEO over at ARK Invest, she just put in for an Ethereum spot ETF. Ethereum's a big play right now, bro. I mean, you have less of it is on exchanges, and all that means is that people are staking it, meaning they own it on the exchange, but when you stake it, it takes it off the exchange, and then others are also putting it in their cold wallet. So that's a scarcity.
Yeah.
I wish I'd have brought it in here. I'm going to make a podcast about this later and maybe a social post later. But I was at a flea market over the weekend with the family and came up to this thing that had like vintage old money. So I bought money, and it was a $50,000 or 50,000 marks. It was German from the 1920s in a period where inflation was ridiculous. And there was a story in there about how this lady had a wheelbarrow full of these notes, 50,000 mark notes. She was robbed. They burned the money, but they wanted the wheelbarrow. Yeah. She was robbed for her wheelbarrow, and she went to go buy bread because of inflation. This is the beauty of crypto. Crypto is a hedge against inflation because of its scarcity. The more scarce something is, the less inflation it has. Bitcoin, there's only ever going to be 21 million of them ever. And it's going into its next halving come April and May, which means the miners who mine Bitcoin, right now they're being awarded 6.25 Bitcoin when they solve the algorithm, which takes an enormous amount of energy and mathematical equation solving. Well, when it comes to the next halving, built in the algorithm of Bitcoin, it has to have, and it happens roughly every 4 years. So when they first started in 2009, the miners were awarded 50 Bitcoin. Can you imagine having 50 Bitcoin right now, bro? 4 years. Yeah, 4 years later, it went to 25. It halved. 4 years later, it went to 12 and a half. It halved. 4 years later, it went to 6.25, which is where we are now. That next fourth year is roughly April, May of next year. It's really a numbers game more than it is a 4 year. It just happens to work out every 4 years. So now it's going to 3.
Wow.
So you have only 21 million ever going to be sold. You have the spot Bitcoin ETF, which is different than a futures ETF. It just means the ETF now has to own the asset. Okay. Then you're going to go into the halving. So for a miner to make it profitable for them to mine, well, what do you think has to happen to Bitcoin? It has to go up, right? Yeah. So as you begin to understand these processes and you make those investments and you get into those things, it's a hedge against the inflation. So on this personal journey, this is what I've discovered. Is these kinds of different things, because you probably have people in your life, crypto schmipto, and then other people in your life, they're like, I only trade crypto. That's all I ever do. Great. Let's do it through a tax-free vehicle. No, I'm going to live forever. I don't need a retirement account, or, whatever the case may be. But anyways, this idea of personal growth, personal journey is great. I didn't mean to bore you with all that, but I wanted our listeners to know these are some great things. Ethereum, I didn't get to finish the thought. It's being staked. It's being taken off of exchanges because it's going into cold storage, and then the layer 2 technology. So it's becoming more scarce as well because it's coming off of exchanges. And then the spot ETF that Kathy just put in for it.
Which is good news for investors like us.
Incredible good news. So if you haven't yet opened up your tax-free crypto account, I encourage you to do so. So speaking of that, let's wrap it up. Since Doug's a good friend of mine, if you're a friend of his and you're listening to this, because he's a part of the tax-free crypto family. If you use promo code DPLOW, D, the letter D, and then PLOW, DPLOW, short for Doug Plowman, DPLOW, and you go to our website, taxfreecrypto.com, up in the right-hand corner is the Get Started button. Click that button. When you get to that next page, you'll see a spot where you either have to pay $250 in order to open an account to have an IRA set up for you, or if you put in DPLOW in the promotion area, the promo code area, you're going to get that account for free just because you heard this podcast and Doug was a part of that. So Doug, where can people find you? What's the best way to get a hold of you, whether you want to give out your email or your socials or your phone number or your social security number or whatever you like to do?
So as of right now, I'm still in the processes of configuring my LLC and get my website and stuff like that set up. As of right now, you can find me on Instagram at dplow93. That's my main social media account, and kind of follow me on there. I'm planning on posting some more content and stuff like that. So hope to get some feedback from you guys and stuff like that. Yeah. And this has been great.
Yeah, give our listeners sort of like, if there's one thing that you want to leave them with, something to chew on, whether it's something you would tell somebody if you were consulting with them, or something you got just over this past weekend that you just want to share, and it's just your heart's full and you want to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be to take some time to reflect with, where you are at personally, and really see like what are some of the things that you can do to, kind of take a step back from, maybe this perpetual hamster wheel that you're in, because I think sometimes we all find ourselves in a little bit of a pattern, and say like, what are some of the things that I can do to begin investing in myself, and work towards setting some pretty focused goals for yourself, and building yourself up to the point where it allows you to start to take yourself a little bit outside of that comfort zone, begin to, expand your circle, whether it be socially or professionally, because, being able to expose yourself to different types of people and different types of experiences, and take time to think about that, is something that often gets neglected. But when you do, like, you just start to see like these things that happen throughout the course of your life that you can't explain, and that you chalk up to just luck. You hear a lot of successful people just talk about, oh, like, it's just good luck, being in the right place at the right time. But it really is, being able to take a step back, and sort of do some reflection and put yourself in positions to have that luck,
right.
And this personal journey that I've gone through has really been able to open up a lot of doors for me. It's enabled me to meet people like you and a lot of folks that I've come into contact with these masterminds, and had just a great substantial impact on my life. And so I'd encourage people to step a little bit outside of your comfort zone, out of this sphere that you live in today. Mm-hmm. And I think as you begin to branch out and you begin to meet more people and experience some new things, you'd be really surprised at what it can do for your life, personally, professionally, and it's really changed the course of my life too. So.
It's beautiful. Thank you, Doug, for that. Thank you so much for coming in and being a part of the Tax Free Crypto podcast. Until next time, we'll catch you on the other side.